Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Akakadash. I want to say Shalom, God knockoff out there, doing this through diligently. Coming at you once again with another lesson. The title of this one's going to be something along the lines of spiritual refinement or something like that, right? Or, spiritual refinement will probably be in the title somehow. And spiritual refinement is something that popped into my head. I was thinking about this now. Today's lesson is really I wasn't like you. Really, I wasn't even thinking about making this lesson. I had other ideas. All right, but that's why you don't make plans, because Yahweh Shai has other ideas. Really, this is a lesson for myself. All right, because I've been going through a bunch of hell lately. I mentioned my teeth and stuff, so that's one hell. And then for the last year, my left ear has been completely, not completely, but it's getting more and more and more and more plugged. It feels like there's something stuck in your ear. I've gone out and got I got like one of those earwax cleaners, right? I'll show what they look like. Ear wax cleaner, like a water thing, right? It's like one of these things, right? You put in your ear. Actually, I think it might be that exact one right there. It tries to blast that out. And that's what I first got a while ago. I tried to do, when it first happened over a year ago, I started doing hydrogen peroxide. They say that can remove earwax. And I went ahead and that wasn't working at all, really, anymore. It started getting worse. I thought maybe that was making it worse. And then, I went ahead and got one of these. And that helped a little bit, but then, it started to get worse. Then I got one of those, I got one of these ear cleaner with camera, one of these type things. That's actually the exact brand that I got, all right, from Amazon. So I got one of those, and you can look in your ear, and it'll probably show gross images and stuff, but you can like look in your ear and see what's going on. And I did that. And I got that within the last, several months. And, there was nothing really, no blockages like this. It just looked like a regular eardrum. That's basically what I see when I put it in there. And there wasn't that. So then I started looking into it. And then you find out stuff about like ETD, eustachian tube dysfunction, all right, ETD, or TMJ, like throat, mouth, and jaw disease and stuff like that. Just trying to figure out what it is. And I'm pretty sure it's just, ETD, which is basically where, the tubes, all right, that regulate pressure within your ear, don't properly open and close, all right, and it can basically lead up to a buildup of fluid in your ear, making it feel like, there's something stuck in your ear perpetually, and there's nothing really in your ear, all right, it's behind the eardrum, all right, like in the middle ear, behind the middle ear area, and, I've been going through that, and, it's hell because it makes you, dizzy. You get headaches, all right? You'll be walking, and some days it's fine, and then some days you'll be walking, and you get, like, really fucking dizzy out of nowhere. You get headaches. Sometimes you get these ice pick headaches. They go, and then, of course, going through that is hell. That one, that's really the thing that brought up this topic today. I was really, ranting to my wife about it and, feeling like, just going through hell, and it makes you... So like I said, this lesson is really something I need, to keep it in my mind. But, sometimes these hells we go through, and I'm sure I'm not going through the worst. I'm sure there's brothers out there that are going through way worse. But, over a year, and I've been going through stuff, since before that. I had issues with, I went to the doctor and they said there was issues with, my heart and stuff like that. And, like they said it was, I'll just go ahead and say it. I know I always mention it, but they said it was left ventricular hypertrophy, which is, they call it athlete's heart or whatever. But I wasn't really, that was during the whole lockdown and stuff. And I think it was just because I wasn't getting enough, wasn't walking around or stuff like that. I think that one's pretty much gone. I don't think I have that issue anymore. And that was one of the initial thoughts, because I had dizziness from that. So, man, dizziness off and on I've been having for like damn near like 6 years. And dealing with dizziness, man, is enough to make you go mad. I kind of like had a little crash out today. I walked out. I was coming out here to make a lesson. I said, you know what, I need to really just make a lesson about this, because sometimes the the scriptures, right? you know that you're gonna go through hell in this truth. But man, sometimes you go through so much hell, you start leaning into your own understanding, and that's something that you don't want to do. And I'm guilty of it. Like I said, I'm not a perfect individual. Right? I go off constantly. I went off today. Right? I should have, some of the thought processes that I had was stupid. Right? Like I said, this is a lesson as much as it is for me as it is for you, because this is something I need to keep in my mind. It is hard, man. It's a really hard situation. I know there's brothers and sisters out there that are going through things, and I just want to make this lesson that like, you're not the only thing. We don't always come on these cameras and let all the health issues that we're going through, right? So, but I said fuck it, and a little bit, just be transparent. I guess it doesn't bother me. I don't have any embarrassment about it. It's just something you go through. And there's other hells I'm going through as well, that I'm not going to necessarily like bring up all of them, right? But it's you go through those things, man. And, right now, I got at least 3 things, this thing with my ear, this thing with, get my teeth removed, which, that's crazy stuff, man, to get your teeth removed like that. And it ain't like, I ain't talking about like, oh, it's I'll just go ahead and show you. It ain't like, oh, you got a couple teeth removed. I mean, like legitimate, like front teeth are gone, right? Legitimately. So, and pardon the little bit of the mess in the background, the Star Wars shirt, it's just something I threw on. But yeah, man, it's just, just be transparent about it. Some people can be a little bit embarrassed about it, but whatever, and like I said, I don't wear the partial because it just makes it hard to speak during these lessons. And if it's going to make it hard to speak, my first priority and the only priority really why I'm in this world is to teach. All right. And, do the work of the will of Yahweh Shemi Shai. And I'm not the best at it all the time. I fall short. I'm not the best servant. All right. And, we have our shortcomings and stuff like that. And, and that's another hell that you go through. Just, being pissed off with yourself all the time. So, we go through these hell, man. It's a hell. All right. And I've been going through hell for a while. And, just let you know, you brothers and sisters out there going through hells, look, we're going through them too. All right. Not every brother is going to talk about it. Some things might be embarrassing. You never know what they got going on, right? Some things might be embarrassing. They don't really want to talk about it. Or, they try not to think about it. Like I said, there's other things that, like I have going on. I'm not going to necessarily, mention because that's just too over explaining. You don't need to know everything. I can break you off a little bit, you can know, but a lot of brothers and sisters out there, specifically, brothers and sisters going through things, but specifically mention the brothers because, you think, that, you watch the lessons, you're going to know everything about them, and that's not true. You don't know their favorite movie, you don't know their favorite show, and you're not going to know what health issues they're going through, right? Some brothers might be struggling with diabetes, might have to take insulin. You don't know, all right? Or maybe they don't want to take insulin, they manage it other ways, all right? There's just a bunch of other stuff that we're going through constantly, and I'm going to get this off the screen, but, it's part of that spiritual refinement process. Like I said, like today I said I had that little crash out, I'm like, man, I'm going through, am I wicked as hell? Am I going through judgment? Is like the Most High just killing me? Am I dying? Like, is he just taking me out because I've done, the wickedness that I've done in my past? And I mean, like, rightfully so. I've done some wicked things in my past, all right? And I'm not the most perfect servant. I don't, serve him the best 100% that I know is within me, right? I'm trying, and it's just a battle of the mind and the spirit and the flesh all at the same time, and you're going through these battles, and you think, you're like, man, is this just judgment? I'm going through all these things, and like, yeah, he's helped me. You're like, and then demons. That's when you're going through something. That's when demons get you. You're like, well, yeah, look what he did with the Philistines. Look what he did, to the Edomites. He put death and destruction, all these horrible things. Look at what he did to the Egyptians, and that wasn't spiritual refinement. That's because they were being wicked. Maybe it's because you're being wicked. And I mean, in a way, you got to examine yourself and think about those types of things. But it's like, that you gotta, like I said, this lesson is as much, not as most, but as much as is for you as it is for me. All right, and that's why I made it, because I came out here, hot off the pot. All right, the pot hot off the stove, whatever you want to call it. Right, and I said, I'm gonna just make a lesson about this because I got all these scriptures flowing to me right now, so I might as well get into it. And, it's one thing, and I'm calling myself out. Like I said, I'm not perfect, all right? I don't want to make it seem like I'm a hypocrite by making this lesson. I'm calling myself out, so I'm not behaving as a hypocrite, all right? Because I know I do these things, all right? And that's how I can tell you brothers and sisters about them, is because I've gone through them, right? So, and that's how, another reason I'm not to compare myself to Yahweh Shai, but to compare, like, a situation about that is that's, when you go through something, that's how you can tell someone about that thing. For example, the reason Yahushua has these expectations for us is, he's been in the flesh. All right, he knows what we're going through. You can't tell someone, about something that you've never been through, right? You can't say, oh, I know it's like to be, I understand what a burn feels like when you've never been had a burn on your hand, right? You don't know what that searing feels like and the bubbles that blister up after it, right? You can't tell somebody, what it feels like to stub your toe unless you walked out in that middle of the night and you hit it off the side of that counter. And bam! Oh, and you feel that pain radiate up all the way through, right? Or stepping on a Lego, right? Or something like that. So, Yahushua, was in the flesh. He knows that we go through these things, and he knows, through Yahweh Shai, knows what we can take. And I mean, he'll push you right to your edge, man. Because like I said, like it drives me nuts. Like I said, freaking out, getting just losing your mind because you just want your ear to unplug. You're like, God damn, I'm going through the other things as well. I can't even, barely bite because I don't got my front teeth. I'm like, God damn, man, I'm just, you just feel like, you feel like really low. All right. But, again, that's something, you got to keep it in your mind that's when you're actually closest to Yahweh Shai. And it's Yahweh Shai. It's hard to, think like that. And that's why, but thankfully through Yahweh Shai, I have a spiritual woman, spiritual wife that's also in this truth that actually came in this truth before me. And, she'll bounce things off you like that and keep that in your mind. She's just, and it's good to have a woman like that. So you brothers out there that have, wives like that, or you sisters that have husbands like that, all right, that can, keep you in, that's how a woman is natural. The natural use of woman is supposed to be, to help her husband stay, right in the mind and to, be, spiritually boosting and guiding the house and, keeping him, regulated, all right, in a way. And so, when she says things like that, you got to realize that's when you're close. And I say, yeah, you're right. I'm just, going through a lot, and you try to, you start, damn near like losing your mind. You feel like you're losing your mind, going through all these, like, God damn, man, I'm going through it. Like, man, I really hope the Lord's dealing with me, because I mean, and then, and then, you go through other hells. Like a couple days ago, my ear went completely back to normal almost. And then, the next day or two, I woke up and it was just back the same. And I'm like, man, and it's hard, man, when you go through that process because you start, thinking about things. Like I said, I lean to my own thought, like lean into my own understanding and be like, well, I was praying, and Lord, I thought the Lord healed it, and I thought that was it, and I thought, he delivered me out of that situation, and it just came back, and you almost feel helpless. But that's a situation. Lord can do stuff like that as a greater test, and it's hard. It's a tests are not meant to be easy. All right, and like I said, I'm saying this for me as I'm saying it for you, brothers and sisters. Tests aren't meant to be easy. When you go and do the the finals, exams in school, or you do a pop quiz, but they're not meant to be easy. All right, they're not meant to be easy. All right, they're meant to test you, to test your aptitude, to see if you're gonna be able to implement what you've learned. All right, and a lot of the time, like I said, a lot of time I'm not the best, and I feel like I fail a lot of tests. And it's hard, and it's a process of being built up and built up and built up so you can be better. And if you fail the test, you just gotta keep on trying, to pass the next one, man. It's hard. It can feel spiritually draining. It can be bring depression around and make you feel hopeless. But we do have help, and eventually that's the thing. I got to tell myself that eventually we will be delivered out of this situation. One way or another, it could seemingly go on forever and ever and ever and ever. Sometimes something lasts a day and it goes away, but when something lasts months or going on like a year, it's a real big challenge to keep yourself in that mindset of that things are eventually going to go back to normal at some point, right? And you just got to keep yourself in that mindset because you don't know. It could I was looking up Job. Because when I tell my wife, she says, you're just having your Job moment. I'm like, yeah, I get it. It's just, and I was looking up, how long Job went through that hell. And if you look up how long did Job go through his hell, how long was Job tested by the Lord? They say it was more than a week, but it's estimated to be 3.5 years. It says some interpretations suggest a few days or week, while others suggest a longer period, potentially several months or even years. Um, Now down here there was something I read. I can't remember if I can find it, but um, there's no exact time frame. Like this one says, his affliction is probably less than a year, but more than a couple of months. Um, you know, um, so let's see. Um, there was something I can't remember what it was, but a lot of people are saying it was less than 2 months. All right, but there was other things I read, and I can't remember where it was, but they estimated it up to be 3.5 years. Um, so Shields Online, a record above it says a reference to 48 years, considerably more than the mere 7 found in the Slavonic text. So I don't know if that one's saying maybe he was afflicted for 48 years. All right, so they say several months or several years before being restored. So again, we don't necessarily know how long. I'm under the belief that maybe it could have been for several years, right? So volume, where we at? Turn this down just a bit. Bear with me. Come on. That'll do. But yeah, man. So I'm gonna grab some scriptures. All right, dealing on this subject. So first we have Psalms 34 and 19. As a matter of fact, before we get that, we're gonna go and get Job. Um, I guess we probably should just start from the top. Um, we'll start from 6. All right, we'll start from 6. It says Job 1 and 6. Now there was a day when the sons of Yahweh came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. Okay, so going around and putting hells upon people. It through the Lord, because again, he's one of the Lord's angels, or as well the sons. All right, you got to imagine he's one of the sons of the Lord. Sons of Yahweh came to present themselves, and Satan came also. Right, so showing you. All right, so he was one of the sons of the Lord. So it says, and the Lord said unto Satan, we already read that, Slocky, but Satan, the Lord asked where he came from, and Satan told him he was going up and down in the earth, right? Afflicting and doing stuff like that, right? So in verse 8, and this shows you that the Lord does these things. All right, now people always think, oh, it's Satan. Well, the Lord is the one that commands these things. So we're really being tested by the Lord, not Satan. Satan's just would henchman be the right word to use? Henchman. A lackey, a minion, all right, a trusted follower, a subordinate. So yeah, kind of in a way, a henchman, an assistant, all right, an assistant, an aide. So henchman could be a decent word for it. So he's essentially one of the Lord's henchmen. He does the dirty work, right? And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, perfect and an upright man, one that feareth Yahweh and escheweth evil. So he's saying he's good, right? He follows the way I want him to follow. All right, he's a good servant. All right, you should test him. All right, and see how he acts. Now, verse 9 says, Then Satan answered the Lord and said, Doth Job fear Yahweh for naught? Does he fear you for nothing? It says, Hast thou not made an hedge about him and about his house and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. Now there's another one. All right, in Job 2, we'll read them side by side. In verse, we'll go from verse 1. Actually, we might just go here entirely. Let's see. We're at 10. Let me see. we'll continue on. We'll read both, but let me get up in Job chapter 2. Well, let me start with verse 11. All right, and let me go back to where we were and get verse 11. It says, Satan was saying all that to the Lord and said, "But put forth thine hand now and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face." And the Lord said unto Satan, "Behold, all that he hath is in thy power, only upon himself put not forth thy hand." So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord. So let's go back over to chapter 2, all right, and that's where we'll start from verse 1. It says, "Again there was a day when the sons of Yahweh," this is Job chapter 2 and 1, it says, "Again there was a day when the sons of Yahweh came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. And the Lord said unto Satan, From whence comest thou? And Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down it." In verse 3, it says, "And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth Yahweh and escheweth evil? And still he holdeth fast his integrity, although hast thou moved me against him to destroy him without cause. And Satan answered the Lord and said, Skin for skin, yea, all that a man hath will he give for his life. But put forth thine hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, he is in thine hand, but save his life." Okay, so don't kill him. And we're going to skip over to this chapter, all right? It says, so Satan, in verse 7, it says, "So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord, and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown. And he took a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes. Then said his wife unto him, Dost thou still retain thine integrity? Curse Yahweh and die." And this is why it's so good to have a good woman, all right, a good wife, all right, because in this case, she was a speaking like a foolish woman, all right, and that's not the type of advice you want. In verse 10, and this is something that this is a really good thing to keep on your mind, and this is one of the ones that I've kept on my mind, even when I'm trying but failing, right? In verse 10 it says, "But he said unto her, Thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. What shall we receive good at the hand of Yahweh, and shall we not receive evil? In all this did not Job sin with his lips." So there you go. There you go, man. And we're skipping down to verse 3. Verse 11, it says, "Now when Job's 3 friends heard of all this evil that was come upon him, they came every one from his own place. Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite, for they had made an appointment together to come to mourn with him and comfort him. And when they lifted up their eyes afar off and knew him not, they lifted up their voice and wept, and they rent every one his mantle and sprinkled dust upon their heads toward heaven. So they sat down with him upon the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and none spoke a word unto him, for they saw that his grief was very great." So I'm not going through, something as bad as Job was doing, and his grief was very great. So when we go through these things, our grief might be, very great. We might, be sorrowful, sad, depressed, or angry even sometimes. And the thing that you need to realize is that even the Lord said it, is that Job was righteous. Okay, he said he was skewed with evil. There's none like him, right? He was righteous. So it's not that he was going through that for being wicked. Now you can go through those things for being wicked as well. So it's always good to repent, and in the case that you did anything wicked that offended the Lord in any type of way. But in this verse I'm going to read right here, Psalms 34:19, it says, "Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivereth him out of them all." And again, I want to get another scripture that I mentioned earlier, "Lean not," and I'm guilty of this, all right? Proverbs 3:5, "Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding." Next verse, it says, "And all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths." Paths. Like it, kind of hard to say. Proverbs 3:7 says, "Be not wise in thine own eyes, fear the Lord, and depart from evil. It shall be health to thy navel, and marrow to thy bones." It says, "Honor the Lord with thy substance, and with the first fruits of all thine increase." So shall thy barns be filled with plenty, and thy presses shall burst out with new wine. My son, despise not the chastening of the Lord, neither be weary of his correction. For whom the Lord loveth, he correcteth, even as a father the son in whom he delighteth. So there you go. And we got to get 13 and 14 as well. It says, happy is the man that findeth wisdom, and the man that getteth understanding, for the merchandise of it is better than the merchandise of silver, and the gain thereof than fine gold. So, and this is, like I said, I can't sit here and be a hypocrite, and I'm giving you this for for your edification's sake, but I can't say that I'm perfect at this. All right, this is one of the things I struggle with a lot. I know the scriptures, but applying them as far as I know not to lean into your understanding, but in that moment of that chastisement where you're going through that hell, the demons get on you, and like I said, I'm not gonna sit here and say that I don't mess up. All right, sometimes do I not mess up? Yeah, but sometimes I do mess up. Right, and I'm here to tell you that yeah, it happens. I'm not perfect. We go off. And I don't want to be like that. None of us want to be like that. All right. And it's just one of those things. And that's, partially the reason or fully the reason, I'm not sure, I'm not the Lord, that I'm probably going through this. Is because it's something that I need to learn. And I fucking suck at it. All right. Because I don't know if I'm stubborn or whatever it is. But, you'll go through things and go through things. Sometimes you need to be, scolded a couple times before you learn. Right. Sometimes that's just how it works. So I can't sit here and tell you that I apply this 100%, perfectly all the time. I think of it, but sometimes I fall flat and end up, panicking or the flesh gets to me and I end up, thinking some type of way. So I'm not perfect. I'm not a perfect individual. None of us are, right? And I'm here to, let you know my faults, but I'll wear them out on my sleeve. All right, to let you know that if you're struggling, you're not the only one that's struggling, man. You're not the only one that's struggling. We're going through things. All right, we have to have appearance of being strong, but sometimes it helps to show you that hey man, we are going through things. All right, we do go through hell. We're not perfect. All right, sometimes we're not all perfect at of course we don't go off and accidentally go and eat pork or accidentally go and commit adultery or do something like that. That's not what I'm talking about. But it's foolish thinking is really a sin as well. And not applying the scriptures, that's just that's basically doubt, and that's not what you want to do. And like I said, when you're low, those demons, you're close to the Lord, but when you're close to the Lord like that, the demons will come, all right, and they will try to get you messed up. And if you're not right, yeah, it'll work, all right, and have you panicking, freaking out, leaning into your own understanding, and acting ridiculous, all right. So like I said, I can't, I don't want to be a hypocrite and say, you need to do this because, oh, blah, 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 and I do it, so you should do it too. I try, to exemplify this, but I'm not perfect at that. But I'm giving you this scripture and reading this scripture, for edification for my sake as well as you brothers and sisters, so it. All right, you can know it, but you got to apply it. All right, so and like I said, these scriptures do pop into my mind when I'm going through that. And it's one of those things where you just gotta get past those demons and those lean into your own understanding and try to just push that off. It's hard. It is hard. It's not easy. Remember what I said earlier in the lesson is that tests aren't meant to be easy. All right, they're not meant to be easy. And you'll have demons. You'll be thinking in my mind. Sometimes I'll think in my mind. I'll be like, man, this is hard. This is so hard, man. What I'm going through is hard. This is hard. I just have to tell myself, you'll have demons come over, isn't it hard? Don't you think it's hard? It could be a lot easier, trying to do, saying all different types of things. And like I said, I'll always just tell myself that it's not, everything's meant to be easy. All right. This isn't meant to be easy. All right. Something that's easy generally doesn't have as much of a reward as something that was hard to do. All right. Something that's harder, you get a better reward. All right, for example, I'll use video games, all right, because, I play a lot of video games. I'm sure a lot of brothers out there do, potentially sisters as well. I know it's more of a man thing, generally. Men play more video games. But if you play on a harder difficulty, all right, usually, for example, in, like, RPGs and, stuff like Diablo or, like, the Elder Scrolls or other things like that, sometimes when you play on harder difficulties, the loot, the rewards you get, right, the armor or the swords are better rewards. They're stronger or something like that, right? And or sometimes like in different games, sometimes you might, if you play on a harder difficulty, you might earn more XP. Or you, like in racing games, if you play on a harder difficulty, you'll earn more points, or you'll earn more money. All right, in the races, I think that's how it works in like Forza Horizon, which is a racing game. And like if you play on a harder difficulties without the assist and auto braking on and all that stuff, you'll get in the driving line. If you play without that, you'll get more money. All right, so you can earn cars faster, but it's harder. All right, but if you play on an easier mode, you don't get nearly the same amount of reward. Right? That's something you need to tell yourself, and that's what I just keep on repeating to myself. When demons try to mess with me, like it's hard, it's hard. Isn't it hard? Isn't it hard? But it's not supposed to be easy, man. Tests aren't meant to be easy. That's the reason why they're tests. All right. If it was so easy and you could just pass it, you wouldn't need to be tested in the first place, right? So, I just keep on telling myself that. That's something you brothers and sisters can tell yourselves. It's not meant to be easy. It's not meant to be easy. All right. This isn't meant to be easy. All right. Not gonna be easy. It's not easy. All right. This walk of truth is not easy. And that's one of the things that deters a lot of people, is that it's not easy. You do have to change. You do have to think differently. All right. You are going to mess up and then feel pissed off and disgusted at yourself. And I feel pissed off at myself, disappointed at myself, disgusted at myself, wondering if I'm some type of retard or something sometimes because of some of the shit I do. I'm like, man, am I fucking stupid? What am I doing? Right? Why can't I just, just instantly be like, good at like applying the scriptures the first time and just being like, the Lord's gonna deal with me, instead of panicking like, oh my God, what am I going through? Instead, why can't I just be like, look, the Lord's got me. Why do I panic first and then correct myself and be like, no, I need to trust in the Lord? Why can't I just do that right off the bat? And you feel disgusting yourself, man. I'm critical as hell of myself. I piss myself off a lot. No one pisses me off more than me, right? So yeah, man, Christians are close, right? But it's just one of those things, man, where we're gonna go through hell, man. And I want to get another scripture, which is I'll just type in Sirach 2:4, Ecclesiastes, all right, 2:4. It says, whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate. Again, I mentioned this before, brothers have mentioned this before. This doesn't mean you're gonna be jumping for fucking joy. Woohoo! I'm ill. No, you gotta take it cheerfully, as in, look, man, okay, I'm going through this. This is fine. I gotta just stay patient, all right? And like I said, I fail on that a lot. Failed on that today, right? So that's why I'm making this lesson. Because of that, I said, you know what? This is like a self-rebuke almost, really, video. And we need to keep ourselves in check like that. So, and when we go into these afflictions, all right, we need to say, look, we're going through affliction. Man, this sucks, all right? But I understand. I got to be patient, whether it's 1 month or whether it's 1 day, whether it's 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 10 years. Ain't got like 10 years like that. But however long I'm going through this, I got to be patient. I'm going through this for a reason. It's going to be hell. Sometimes we got to go through shit. All right. Not everything's just happy go. I hate to say the term lucky, because, to quote Obi-Wan Kenobi, in my experience, there's no such thing as luck. Right? So we got to do it. And it's one thing to know the scriptures, but it's another thing to apply them. Right? Like I said, I know the scriptures, but sometimes, when you have that flesh, when you're going, and that's, again, there's a scripture that comes to mind. It's Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the wickedness, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So we're dealing with the wickedness that the Edomites got going on, and we're also dealing with spiritual battles. We're in a spiritual war, and yeah, man, it's hell. All right, it's not going to be easy, and we're gonna go through those things. Now let's get Ecclesiastes. Really, I should have got 2 and 1. I don't know why I started so back in. But Ecclesiastes 2 and 1, because 1 through 4 is fantastic. 5 is fantastic. It's all fantastic. But for what we're talking about right at this moment, Ecclesiastes 2 and 1, my son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. Right? So you think about, man, when I was out in the world, I wasn't going through things like this. You're right. You weren't going through this, but you weren't serving the Lord. Okay? The Lord wants us, if you really serve the Lord, He wants to see, okay, does He really trust me? I'm gonna put all this on him or her. I'm going to see if he's still trusting me, all right? If he's going to bug out, or if he's going to go back in the world, or, he or she is going to, just forget me and go back in the world. And that's not something you want to do. All right, you don't want to do that. That's especially bad. It's even bad to even have that lapse of judgment for a moment of thinking, foolishness. Oh man, is the Lord even going to help me? You don't want to think like that. You got to trust in the Lord. All right, that's part of the test. So Ecclesiastes 2:1, my son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. Set thy heart aright and constantly endure, and make not haste in time of trouble. Now, what is haste? All right, haste meaning. All right. The haste is in far as a reckless action. All right. Definition 2, a reckless action. Okay. Eagerness to act that is not proper. Okay. And make not haste in time of trouble. Cleave unto him and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. Whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate. For gold is tried in the fire, an acceptable man in the furnace of adversity. And that's, let's get 6. It says, believe in him, and he will help thee. Order thy way aright, and trust in him. There you go. It says, ye that fear the Lord, wait for his mercy, and go not aside lest ye fail, or lest ye fall. Ye that fear the Lord, believe him, and your reward shall not fail. Ye that fear the Lord, hope for good, and for everlasting joy and mercy. Look at the generations of old and see. Forgot this was in here. So all the way up to 10. Yeah, because this is one of the ones I think of when I'm going through hell as well. Look at the generations of old and see. Did ever any trust in the Lord and was confounded? Or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? Or whom did he ever despise that called upon him? For the Lord is full of compassion and mercy, long-suffering, and very pitiful, and forgiveth sins, and saveth in time of affliction. So, there you go. And it's one of those things we can continue on. Woe be to fearful hearts and faint hands, and the sinner that goeth 2 ways. Woe to him that is faint-hearted. What does faint-hearted mean? This is why we can't be like that. Lacking courage. All right, lacking courage, or spineless, coward. All right, cowardly. It says, for he believeth not, therefore shall he not be defended. All right, so there you go. Man, I forgot what I was gonna say, but yeah, man, it's we just gotta go to the end, and that's what I was gonna say is, and you're gonna pray and pray and pray, and you're gonna believe, but that doesn't mean always you're gonna be, lifted up from your not lifted up. You will be lifted up for praying. Lifted out of your situation, instantly. Right? You pray, oh, I'm going, my left pinky hurts. I need to pray, and, please, Yahweh Shemi Shai, heal me. And then, it just goes away instantly. No, Lord might want you to go through that for a while. Now, it's still good that you prayed. It wasn't for naught, all right? You prayed, and it shows you that you're trusting the Lord. But sometimes you have to go through things, all right? Sometimes you have to go through things for, a time and for a season, all right? Now we won't get that because it's not. It can be used for it, but it's not necessarily speaking of that. So let's see what else we got here. Let's get Hebrews 12:6. It said, "For whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth." Now, what is chasten? What does that mean? All right, rebuke or misfortune. All right, a misfortune. All right, take down a peg or two. Bring down. All right, bring down. Archaic, especially of Yahweh, the discipline to punish. All right, to inflict a penalty. All right, a punishment. Okay, so throw the book at and they say Esau, be unfair. No, it's fair. We've done enough wickedness, man. Even if he was to kill us, we're deserving of it because we've done horrible wickedness. We don't deserve anything really from the Lord other than death, because we're bad. We're not good servants of the Lord. Even we can be good servants now to an extent, but we're not perfect. I mean, we're constantly going off. We're wicked. We don't deserve anything of the Lord other than death and all the wickedness that we've done in our past life. Mercy is a gift of the Lord. It's not something that we're entitled to. All right, we're not entitled to shit. All right, but death. All right, because of all the wickedness that we've done. All right, and the Lord, having mercy on us is uh, uh, a gift, not a it's a reward, a gift, not a requirement. Okay, so don't think that the Lord owes you anything. All right, the only thing He owes you is a swift kick in the ass. All right, so where do we want to get? I think we'll get Proverbs 3 and 11 through 12, and then we'll close out. How long has this lesson been? About 40 minutes? I thought it was like 20 minutes. So Proverbs 3 and 11. It reads, my son, we'll get Job 5 and 7 after as well, Lord willing. But Proverbs 3 and 11, my son, despise not the chastening of the Lord, neither be wary of his correction. That's what it is. It's correction. For whom the Lord loveth, he correcteth, even as a father thy son in whom he delighteth. Okay, you don't whoop someone's ass. You whoop your kid's ass because you hate him. You whoop your ass because he was doing something wrong, and you don't want him to do that because one reason or another, that's gonna not be good for him in his life. Okay, it could lead him to something worse than an ass whooping, right? So I think I already got this, but yeah, well, I might have already got this. A lot of these scriptures have similar talking point, all right, because that's what they're on. So Job 5 and 17 is where we're going to close out, though. It says, behold, happy is the man whom Yahweh correcteth. Therefore despise not thou the chastening of the Almighty. For he maketh sore and bindeth up. He woundeth, and his hands maketh whole. He shall deliver thee in 6 troubles, yea, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee. In famine he shall redeem thee from death, and in war from the power of the sword. Thou shalt be hid from the scourge of the tongue, neither shalt thou be afraid of destruction when it cometh. At destruction and famine thou shalt laugh, neither shalt thou be afraid of the beasts of the earth. There you go. Continue on. It says, for thou shalt be in league with the stones of the field, and the beasts of the field shall be at peace with thee. And thou shalt know that thy tabernacle shall be in peace, and thou shalt visit thy habitation, and shall not sin. So, and we could keep going on, but we'll leave it at that. So, yeah, we're going through hell right now, but if we're part of the elect, and Lord willing we are, and we're hopeful that we are, in the end days, man, it's going to be so much better. It might be worse for us now than the people of the earth, but in the end days, it's going to be so much better for us than for them, right? We're going to have, it's going to be harder for us now, but it's going to be easier for us later. And mind you, in Jacob's trouble and the time's coming, it's going to be the worst time that's ever been. So if you had to get hell now or then, it's better to get it now. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out, and just say, hey, this is as much for me as it is for you. Just keep trusting the Lord. You're gonna go through hell. It's not gonna be easy. It's not supposed to be easy. And sometimes you're gonna feel real low, like you're about to lose your mind, and you just gotta keep praying and call upon Yahweh Shem Shai. One more scripture. He knows how strong our willpower is as well. This is 1 Corinthians 10:13. There hath no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. But Yahweh is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will, with the temptation, also make a way to escape, that you may be able to bear it. Every once in a while, he may give you a little bit of like for example, sometimes my ear won't be as bad as it is. Sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's bad. Sometimes he'll make it go away for a day or two, right? So that there's ways to escape, and that you may be able to bear it. And a prayer is our first option. And again, doesn't mean it's going to go away, all right? But he could make it less bad for you, right? And for a time and for a season. So but you got to go through hell, all right? There's we're going to go through things. So not always praying is just going to make it go away. If the Lord wants you to go through that hell, you're going to have to go through that hell. But he will allow you to be able to bear it. All right, he's not gonna make you, just completely horrendously in an awful situation. All right, there'll be something that you can bear it somehow through his power. So that's where we're gonna close out. All right, so Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. Once again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Makakadash. I want to say shalom, my brothers and sisters out there. Keep enduring, keep the faith. we're almost out of here. Till next one, Lord willing. Shalom.